Hello, and welcome to Beyond the Plate with Carol, where we will explore food and a little beyond. So come along with me on this journey and see what we uncover. Welcome to Beyond the Plate with Carol, brought to you by the Red Arrow Diners, all now open 24/7, Manchester, Londonderry, Concord, and Nashua. Let me see here. So I am here today I'm so excited about it. And this morning I was doing, my research. I did some last week, and then this morning I kind of was tying it all up. And let me welcome on Chef Keith Sarasin.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Yes. I'm so excited to have this interview with you. I read so much about you today and last week. And when my husband and I found your commissary kitchen. So Milford is the commissary kitchen.
Correct.
And then you do the pop-up. So I'm not even quite sure where to start, but Chef Keith Sarasin of Aatma Curry House. You can check him out at aatmacurryhouse.com. And you also have keithsarasin.com. You have a great YouTube channel, tons of stuff on YouTube. I mean, I could have sat there for hours this morning. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. But I'm like, you know what? We're going to hear his story today. Where do we want to start? I love the story. You started when you were 14. I love a lot of the stuff says you were born in 1981 or 1982. What is that all about?
I don't know. I didn't do my own Wikipedia page. It just showed up one day after like my fifth cookbook or something. And I was like, I don't even know how to edit it at this point. So 81.
Well, would you like to know a little tidbit? When I read that, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I graduated high school in 1981.
Well, you know what?
I'm like, ouch.
Honestly, I feel thankful because like this point I'm getting gray hairs and I'm like, oh man, how much more do I have left in me? And a lot for the record, but.
You do. Oh my gosh. I mean, I think you're just beginning. I also want to make mention, Chef Keith Sarasin brought in Jeffrey Schlissel. So
God, you got it. You got it.
And you work with Keith. And you guys do things together.
Yep.
And stuff like that. So welcome on also. Welcome on.
Thank you very much.
So let's start with when you were 14 and you started at Red Lobster.
Yeah.
I mean, that is like the coolest. I love that.
Yeah. It's funny. So I grew up in Nashua, New Hampshire, and my mom was just a single mom. Her and I were so very, very close. I think a lot of times people ask me, oh, like, do you feel like you didn't have that influence of a father? And yeah, but my mom played both roles, which is what a single mom does, which is why they're such rock stars. And I wanted a mountain bike really bad. And my mom's like, okay, well, if you want that, you're going to have to work for it. And I was like,
smart.
Right. So a friend of mine named Steve, he always wanted to be a chef. He was a larger than life personality. He was a year older than me. So he took a job at Red Lobster and he's like, oh, I can get you this job. Come on down. And, your introductory sessions to the kitchen are tumultuous at best, especially being a kid. I can still remember like it was yesterday, about 1.5 inches of water on the ground at all points. You're trying to like put out food in a slip and slide. And it was crazy. The industry's come a long way since then. But I think those are the formative years where you realize, at least I realized, I hate this job and don't want to do it. That was really it. I never wanted to be a chef.
I read that too. So when did that shift? Like, when did that shift?
Yeah. So I think the food industry is one that, and I know that you can relate with this, that is low margins. It's challenging. You attract all these quality of life people that come in and, you're dealing with relationship management. You're a therapist half the time.
A banker.
And on your best day, you're like, oh, I put out something that made people smile. And so for me, my degree is in psychology, and Steve wanted to be the chef. Years later, I paid my way through school by cooking. And I didn't have any glamorous jobs. It was just a line cook. Occasionally I made a shift manager role. But Steve ended up going on and, working harder in his career. And he was like my brother. And then one day I got a call and he had stage 4 cancer. And, there's moments in your life where your world kind of just comes to this screeching halt. So when I went down to visit him and to go into a lot of his cancer treatments, we would come home after treatment and he would be really exhausted and hungry. And he'd be like, hey, you remember that dish we used to make at this restaurant? I worked at Weather Vane for quite some time.
I did too. That was my first restaurant job after I left my parents.
Are you kidding?
No. Which one?
Nashua.
At Bedford.
Whoa.
And then I opened up Lebanon.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is
so funny.
Yeah. So Weather Vane, I was there for a while. Steve was the kitchen manager. But when he'd come back from treatments, he would just be like, remember this dish we used to make? Can you make that? And I realized that food has the ability to transcend just the basics of, oh, this tastes good. And you start touching people's soul. Yep. And I think that that's when food started to transform. And then he passed and I started attaching so many memories. One of the last things he ever said to me, and I don't know if I've ever said this, one of the last things he ever said is he had probably a couple weeks to live. And he's like, hey, when I get out of here, I want to go to Macaroni Grill. And I think I laugh at that story all the time. It's like painful and also beautiful because at the end of the day, all he wanted to do is still connect on food. And there's beauty in there. I realize that's what we get to do.
It totally is. And, when Daryl and I went to Aatma, I was so excited that night to go pick up our food. I can't even tell you. And I mean, you touched my soul. You totally did. I mean, the food is just next level. And I love, reading people, when they go and the pictures and like New Hampshire Eats and other places. I mean, you definitely have the touch for sure. So how did it, like Indian food, how did that all come about? Let's talk about that.
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up a picky eater in New Hampshire. I mean, we're in the chicken tender capital of the world, I would say, between Puritan and, I think a lot of the Western diet, especially when you grow up a little impoverished, is whatever you have access to. And so my access in food was comfort food. It was chicken tenders, mac and cheese. I had a friend whose family owned an Indian restaurant in Nashua, and he would always be like, oh, you got to try this. We'd walk into his house to play a video game, and it was that scent of like what the West would call curry. And when you don't grow up with that, I think one of the things that's really interesting is people fear what they don't know. And I think from a palate perspective, we're the same way, right?
Totally.
And so what I wanted to do is just keep pushing it away because I was afraid. So one day we were playing a video game and he's like, if you lose in this next round, you got to try Indian food. And if it wasn't for me losing, I probably wouldn't be here today.
Wow.
Yeah. So that launched this. So the next day he's like, all right, let's go. And my first bite of Indian food was chicken vindaloo. And vindaloo is known to be vinegary and spicy, and I liked spicy food, so it worked out well. And I always say my first bite of Indian food was like when Neo saw The Matrix. I was like, wait, food can do this?
Isn't it amazing?
I think there's so many preconceived notions because Indian food in the West is done kind of downscale, right? We've relegated it to takeaway. We think about it in the context of pizza. It's something that we just order and, oh, it's butter chicken and naan. But the reality is it's so much more.
It is. But you said, what you touched on, and I think this is so true, but you do it so well, the fear of it. Like, people look at Indian food and they go, what am I going to order?
Yeah.
And then especially if you go to a place that doesn't have good descriptions, it's like, I'm not ordering that. I'm not going to know if I'm going to like that or not. Or, you know what I mean? You pin that perfectly because you make us want it. I mean, and it's a really good job.
Thank you. That's so kind. Especially from somebody I look up to. So, I appreciate it. Jeff says it best. He's always like, you bridge the gap. And it
totally. Yeah, exactly. 100%. Exactly.
Yeah. It's because I am that person, right? I was that person who was so afraid and didn't know any of the words. Like when you walk into an Indian restaurant, it reads like a Bible. There's 28 pages.
It's true.
And
you get confused. And then you're like, okay, forget it.
People don't know what matar paneer is. Like matar means peas. Like you find this out later in life when you start studying it. But like That's the stuff that's so intimidating. So the barrier to entry in Indian food for the average person is significantly higher than other cuisines.
Nice. I can see that.
Yeah. So the next day as I ate that, I was blown away. And my friend was like, I got to go to a spice shop in Nashua. And that's where I met my first mentor, who did not want to teach me. She spent about 6 months, I would go to her store every day for about 6 months saying, I want to learn this. I want to learn this. Long story short, finally she needed some help with her website and I helped her out. And in turn, I could do one of her cooking classes. And that began about a 6-year journey where we started cooking together, doing some acts. Her name was Indra Shilat and she owned Food and Fashion of India.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
He's sexy.
Indra Shilat. She's still to this day one of my favorite people that I've ever met. When my mom passed away, she had so much like wisdom without being wise. Like she was there. And then the food that she would make just felt like a hug. And you get that. Like,
I totally get that.
It's such a nice feeling to be able to kind of bring somebody in and just say, no, it's okay.
Totally. You're talking about your mom. And I think that was like a significant time in your life, obviously. So sorry. Was that like the start, like going to India and really learning all the, food culture, just all about the Indian food?
Yeah. So Indian food has always been an acorn to me. And what I mean by that is like, when you have a tree, Indira was that tree, and the acorn dropped and it was buried under the soil in my life for a while. When I opened Greenleaf with Chris in 2019, my mom passed in 2018 and at the end of 2018. And I think we signed the lease to Greenleaf about 3 weeks after she passed. I was in the process of writing and finalizing my second cookbook. I had a lot of personal stuff happening in my life, not to mention my mom. So I think I was a shell of who I was. And I was going through the motions, trying to continue Farmer's Dinner and all of that. So that acorn got buried. And it wasn't until we opened Greenleaf, went through a lot of stuff in that I started going, I miss connecting with food. And Greenleaf was an incredible project that I'm so blessed to be a part of. And, Chris has taken it to the whole next level. But the thing that helps me is understanding that, like, this is the food I want to do. I just never thought anyone would care.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then you also say, you started on a search to find yourself in the back of an Indian market when you heard a small voice ask you wanted to try something. So bring me back to that.
Yeah. So the day after I tried Indian food for the first time, we ended up going to the spice market where Indira was. And I remember her store like it was yesterday. There's stuff everywhere. It smells like incense. I walked to the back of it, and it's kind of this open concept kitchen where Indira would make lunch once a day. You didn't get to choose. It was whatever she wanted to make. And it would change all the time. And I looked like a deer in headlights. I was just like, I didn't know what any of these words meant. I knew a couple of spices, but that was it at best. And so she looked at me and said, hey, do you need help? And clearly I needed help. So I walked back, and a small little styrofoam container is something that she brought out. And she's like, do you want to try something? And it's so simple that I think a lot of times in life, we overlook pivotal moments because they seem so simple. And her asking, do you want to try something? I had two, just like the bet, right? I had two paths to go down. And I could have been like, oh, I just ate, because it was a styrofoam container of vegetables and I didn't know what. But again, it was that moment of, do I let the fear win, or do I, be respectful and just give this a try? And if I don't like it, I go, oh, thanks. But I'm so glad I did, because that bite of food was absolutely incredible. And I didn't understand how vegetables could be that way.
So that's that moment where that all changed, and you were like, I have to do this. I need to learn more about it. And
yeah, I think it was a spark of inspiration. So that's where the acorn drops and starts to get buried. And so I would constantly go to her store and I'd be like, well, how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? And thankfully, she was such a willing participant to teach anyone who wanted to learn. She'd give you the basics. It was very a Mr. Miyagi relationship. She would be like, I'd be like, how do I do this? And she'd be like, well, you do it by doing it. And you're just like, okay, well, that didn't answer the question. And so I think a lot of her teaching style was about like having the student learn a little bit more, because Indian food is a more, it's a cuisine in which you teach it rather than read it in a book.
It does make sense.
Sometimes it doesn't even mean stuff to this.
No, I think that definitely makes sense. Yeah.
So there's like measurements that exist in Indian food that don't correspond with a tablespoon. So there's a word in Tamil called kaimanam, and kaimanam means hand flavor. And you get that phrase from when a chef will take, like if they're making biryani in a large pot, they'll grab spices, like ground spices by their hand and throw it in, because the corresponding part of their hand is how they've measured forever.
Oh, wow.
So like,
very cool.
That's how you come up with these phrases that don't have English translations.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm a nerd.
I love it. So what brought you, so when did you, because you went to India,
mm-hmm.
and let's talk about that. Like what made you all of a sudden say, I need to get to India and I need to learn more about this. I want to know it all.
Yeah. So a little bit of backstory as I started getting to the India point. So when I left Greenleaf in 2020, right before the pandemic, or right at the pandemic, I found myself going, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Farmer's Dinner was on hiatus. The pandemic was here. I didn't know. I think I lost so much of myself when my mom died that anyone who goes through grief understands the parallel of sitting at the edge of a shore watching waves come in.
Yeah.
And I think that's like such a hard parallel, because in the beginning, you're part of the tide, right? You just get swept away. And I think I lost why I cook. I lost so much of me. Like it's hard to actually convey what that felt like, but I looked in the mirror and a stranger said hello. And I would always remember in those times, when was the last time I felt connected to food? And it wasn't Farmer's Dinner, ironically. I did Farmer's Dinner as a love letter to the farms. I do Aatma as a love letter to Indian cuisine. And so I was driving one day and I was just like connecting with some Indian food. I found this amazing podcast called The Real Food Podcast by a brilliant man named Vikram Doctor, who's a historian in India. And on came this wonderful human being named Dr. Kurush Dalal, who ended up subsequently being my teacher. He offered a class during the pandemic that was food and politics, changed my life. And when I did go to India in 2023, I was able to spend so much time. Kurush has become family to me at this point. He's forgotten more than I'll ever know. And so now I go back again this year to go spend more time with Kurush, cook in kitchens and continue to learn.
Fun. Oh my goodness. So when did you develop Aatma? Like how did that happen after that?
Yeah.
During?
So it started happening before, like during the pandemic, when I realized that, like, you know what, I need to connect with food. Aatma is the Hindi word for soul. But it means something more. In Sanskrit, it would translate to the maximum expression of oneself without form and function. And
that's deep.
It is. It's a huge word. Like, I didn't take it lightly. So to have a restaurant called Aatma, we need to be cooking from a place of clarity. We need to be cooking from a place of consciousness and being very, very, very present with the food that we do. So Aatma was developed specifically with that in mind. So when I just started cooking it alone, we did a pop-up. Our first one was at Stages in Dover with...
Love Evan.
Yeah, Evan is just...
He's great.
We're lucky to have such a talent.
Yes.
And so he gave us the kitchen. We did a 9-course tasting menu for 3 different seatings. And that was a blast.
How cool is that?
It was great. So we got to really put out some flavor profiles. Indian food's relegated to takeout, like I was saying. So to be able to present it at a whole other level from a plating perspective, I think gives power to Indian food because it's such an incredible cuisine. It deserves to be on that pantheon.
And, you mentioned pop-up. So, I know when I was talking with my mom a little bit a few days ago, talking about you, and I was going to be, talking with you today, she's like, what's a pop-up? Like, so for people that don't know, explain what a pop-up was. Because it's kind of, it's not new, but it's new. They're,
totally.
So talk to that.
So we're a homeless restaurant. Basically what it is we're a restaurant that doesn't necessarily have a home yet. We're looking for a space, which we kind of talked about a little bit off air.
So if anybody out there had any space for Aatma Curry House, oh my gosh, that would be amazing.
Hit me up. So what we do is we pop up at our commissary kitchen every Saturday. And people can go onto our website and pre-order. We're also at Coffee and Kindness in Nashua. We take that place over as a kitchen takeover every Thursday and Friday. So people can come in and dine in with us, or they can order to go. And now we're on DoorDash, which is pretty exciting in our world, I think, too.
That really. So it's every week you're at Coffee and Kindness.
Yeah, as of right now, we're there every week, which is so cool.
Now, did I hear a rumor? I don't remember if I was talking to you or someone else. Williams and Sons also.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm the biggest John fan ever. Like,
he's a great guy.
He's just, it's so funny. So we've popped up in their Concord location.
Okay. That's where I've heard of it.
Yeah. I started having their coffee there, and now it's just,
can't wait. We're waiting.
I know. Not only is his coffee great, but him as a business owner, him as a person, I could talk for an hour on how great the relationship's been. Yeah.
Nice. So will there be a Aatma here at Williams and Son in Manchester at the Beacon Building?
That's up to the boss man.
Oh, you're going to talk to him?
Please do. Honestly, anytime we get a chance to work together has really been a joy, and I'm so grateful he gives us the opportunity.
Yes, that would be so cool. I can't wait.
I just got to feed you again.
I totally. I'm getting the. My husband said that too. When are we going back there? I'm like, yeah, no kidding, right? Like, we have to.
Thank you.
So, oh my gosh, that's great. So, all right. Do we want to? Let me see. So you brought Chef Jeffrey in.
Yep.
Schlissel.
You got it.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
There we go. So how did you meet Chef Keith, and how did all that begin?
We actually met. I was working for a broadliner at the time, and we were on a panel at the American Culinary Federation. Jackie Pressinger actually put us on this panel with Hari and Deanna. Yeah, and we were talking about sustainability in the restaurant industry, and we literally sat next to each other, and we just hit it off.
Right. How long ago was that?
8 or 9 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would come up every once in a while and do some different things with it when he needed some help with catering from the field. And this past year, it's just been, hey, you want to do some more stuff? And we've really rocked some stuff out. And he was funny when he was talking about cooking in the mindset. And I snickered. I don't know if you saw that, but every couple of minutes or with me, he'll turn around and go, hey, where are you? And it kind of refocuses you on what you're doing. And as much as an inspiration that we can do for him, he inspires us as the team leader, right?
That is just beautiful. It really is, to have that kind of a relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, that speaks. And your food shows that. It shows the love that is put into that, and the caring. And, that burger thing is just crazy. Like, when you say it is the best burger, it is the best burger. It is. I mean, it's amazing.
It's crazy because it started as a joke. I don't know if I told you the story when we were there. So when we first kind of opened, this person who I think was just trolling us kind of emailed us and was like, oh, what, no burger at your Indian restaurant? And
you told him?
Well, it's funny. It took us a good 3 months of development to get it to that point. And I when I went home that night and read the email, I was like, I can't sleep. Like, I was like, I wonder what it would be like, because you don't just throw seasonings into a burger and call it.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of a bowl with hamburger and you're just throwing whatever in to see how it. How did you develop that?
So there's the culture. So people have a lot of misconceptions of Indian cuisine, one of which is that it's just vegetarian food, right? But the reality is like 35% of the country is vegetarian, 75, like almost 75% eats meat, which is crazy. And so the spice blends that they use for different things for meat are much different than you'd use for vegetable. So our meat masala that we use for it, masala just translates to spice mix. Our spice blend for our meat is 16 different spices, all toasted at different intervals. The sauce took me a good 6 weeks to get exactly right. And we wanted everything to complement. And then when we put it out, my sous chef at the time was like, oh, this is real good. And we realized we had something when all of our staff was like, can I have another?
Oh.
And
so you remember that exact moment when you were like, I think I perfected it.
Yeah. As chefs in a kitchen, I don't know about ever, like most chefs that I talk to, we're always the worst critic of our own food. Like, at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, this is good. It could be better. The burgers, one of the first things I've produced in a while that I'm like, yeah, I keep going back and saying there's nothing I would do different. It's just that good.
It is just that good.
And I have something to extend on. Every time we do something new or we're producing something, it always goes back to, but is it good as the burger? And that pushes us to be not perfectionist. We just want to put something that's craveable, desirable, to touch somebody's soul, because the whole thing of Aatma is to touch somebody's soul. Because when we're feeding somebody, we don't know what they're going through, but giving them a hot plate of food that touches their soul to invoke a memory or whatever, that's everlasting.
And who would ever imagine when you take a bite of that Aatma burger that it's going to taste like that? Like it brings you to a whole other realm, really. I mean, and your buttered chicken. Oh my gosh. And we had, it was the Delphi burger. Now, is that different than?
No, so we called it the Delhi Double because it was a fun pun on Delhi, India.
Yeah.
And then we eventually got to the point where we didn't want people to misconstrue that this is something you have in Delhi. So we're just going to call this the Aatma burger at this point. It's ours.
Okay. All right. And then we had the ribs too. You had ribs at that time.
Yeah.
You change it up a little bit here and there.
Yeah, we actually changed it quite a bit because
it's important.
We're all a little ADD. So we also don't like getting stagnant. Stagnation is just it's the enemy of growth. And so the ribs are so we started those for Chinese New Year. Because my girlfriend her family's part Cantonese. And when she would take me to Chinatown, which is very Cantonese in Boston, we would go to Hong Kong eatery and have these unbelievable chashu ribs that still to this day, I'm craving now. The roast pork. Cantonese cuisine is so incredibly beautiful. And if it wasn't for Aatma, I'd probably be exploring that at a whole deeper level. So
who's to say you can't?
I think I have one life and I'm as far as I know. And Indian cuisine was my choice. People have this saying, they say, you don't visit India, India visits you. And I think the more I age, the more I understand it now, because there's so much more I want to learn with the cuisine. But the chashu ribs are something that we're going to always, when we get a brick and mortar, I promise they're always going to be on there. They're that good. They're just...
You need a brick and mortar. Oh my goodness.
I get so much coming from you.
Oh man. My husband, we're foodies, obviously, and we go out a bit. We did redo our kitchen a year and a half ago or so. So we do go out less than we used to. So we're now down to maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 times a week versus the 5 or 6 before, which is still very bad. But yeah, definitely. I just think that would be, and Manchester would be even better. But we do travel too. So
yeah, no, it's cool to see. I think when you go out, it helps develop your palate so much because you're getting a variety of different, techniques and all these different things and flavor profiles, and those lead to flavor memories. And I think that at the end of the day, that's what helps us as chefs.
Definitely. And you do it right, because like I said, the fear of ordering food that you don't know, people, it's easier just to avoid it.
Yeah.
But you bring them right in with your pictures and your description and it's like, I have to try this. Like, are you kidding me? I mean, I was like, I want this, I want this, I want this. Like, oh my gosh.
Thanks. Yeah, that fear is a real thing. And I always remember being that person. And I think that instead of shaming people or ostracizing them from the community, it's much better to welcome them, right? Like, it's much better to be like, no, we know this food can be confusing. These words don't make sense. They're not English. So like, it's better to come in and say, this is the food of kings. This is the food of gods. Like, it's so good when it's done right.
Yeah, it totally is. So let's talk about your books. So I have one coming, and of course it didn't come in time, but I'll find you and I want you to sign it. The turkey one, because that's my favorite meal to make every year is Thanksgiving dinner. And I read, actually there was Susan Laughlin that said, she's great too, that you speak to the beginner, but yet you speak to the one that has experience. And so you have something for everyone. I love that.
Yeah, I was so lucky. Like, a lot of people ask me, like, how did you get started writing books? And it feels like a dream, because I remember sitting.
How do you just wake up and say, I'm going to write a book?
I think a lot of chefs romanticize it, right? Like, we're all like, oh, we would love to write a book someday. But the reality is, like, you don't really get the opportunity much because everyone wants to do it.
Well, then how do you find the time for it too? And then how do you do it? That's what would go through my head.
Yeah. So ever since I was in 4th grade, I loved writing. I went to school at Dr. Crisp, and I remember we had a writing assignment, and like, my story won best in class. And ever since then, my teacher actually was an author. And so I like fell in love with writing. I've kept a journal since I was 18 years old. Like, I've always just, it's been a hobby. And I think when our hobbies don't become our professions, we're allowed to have fun. And, so I was in a Best Buy parking lot, and I got a phone call from a chef friend of mine who was working with a small publication in Kennebunkport, Maine. And he's like, hey, they need a cookbook about turkey. And like, your name, like, I feel like you would crush this. But the deadline's in like 3 months.
Oh my God.
And I was like, what? And I was like, Derek, do you think I can actually do this? He's like, chef, I think you can. And so I took on the assignment, scared to death. I didn't have a lot of leeway to write outside of the recipe side of it, but I've developed recipes my whole career, so that part was like mostly easy, is just scaling down the language, making sure that everything was easily, you can recreate it really easy for the home cook. And I knew that if they needed it in 3 months, I was going to do it in 2. And so I locked myself in my house. I worked whatever I could. I wouldn't take any other assignments, and I just worked and worked and worked. I did all the photography for it as well. And
I can't wait to get it.
Thanks. It's the first book in my career, so I look back and I go, oh man, there's so much I do different.
But that's all part of life, right? It's all part of learning and, getting better.
But it's also like, it's probably like your first child. You're like, oh, it's my first child. And so it was a really great project. But because I delivered it before time, the publication was like, you're amazing. Let's do more. And when I did my second cookbook in 2018, I wanted Chris to be a part of it. And that opened the door for Chris. And it was funny when Nudes on Elm was opening, we were part of their friends and family. And I remember Chris bringing
blast from the past.
Right? I remember Chris bringing his laptop to finish the last assignment that he had to finish the book.
Gosh.
So there's like all these cool memories from behind the scenes. But now my 7th and last cookbook comes out.
So it's 6 you have now.
Yeah. So
and 7.
I have one that I wrote without, they needed somebody to write about wild game. And it was, I had when I did the meat cookbook in 2020, which was my COVID project, I had all this extra stuff. I had like all of the stuff for the jerky cookbook, and it didn't make the cut. I had all this stuff for wild game. It didn't make the cut because the book was already at 800 pages. And so when they asked me to subsequently do almost like an appendix to it, it was the jerky cookbook and then the wild game cookbook. So yeah, I've written a book a year for the last 6 years.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's been amazing. And honestly, this next cookbook that comes out is finally the story about Indian cuisine. It's called The Soul of Spice. So I'm so excited to get this.
Mom would be proud, or Mom is proud.
Thank you. I finally get to tell the story about her. And it starts with me being 5 years old, standing in line for government cheese in Nashua, and ends with the journey to Indian cuisine and how it all started.
I just got shivers. I really did. Wow. I can't wait to see that one. Well, thank you so much for coming on and getting a glimpse into what you do. I always like to end with, obviously you're a foodie. Hello. So where do you have, where's your favorite places to go? Like any particular Indian places that you recommend?
Yeah. So Indian food, Chaurastra and DW Highway in Nashua is amazing.
Nashua has great restaurants. They have
Manchester does too.
Yes.
I don't want to discount it, but I got to say Chaurastra is great because they cater to the Indian population, Desi population, very well. And so it's unapologetic. And I think there's a beauty when you have your cuisine be unapologetic. So please check that place out. Have masala dosa. It'll change your life.
Okay. Any places here in Manchester?
Yeah, absolutely. So Manchester is fun because I think there's a smattering of really cool places. I love Al Basha. So
Lots of people love Al Basha. I do too.
Their baba ganoush is so good. We order it all the time. Jeff orders it all the time. And he's written a book that has baba ganoush in it.
Okay. So you've written a book also.
Yeah, it's a different type of book. It's a hybrid of mental health, addiction in our industry, and then the food that actually helped me kind of get out of it.
Oh, I have to get that. Oh my gosh. Very interesting.
Yeah. But he's right, the El Basha, but he's also brought me to Mac's Place Biryani.
Yeah, God, that was my next shout out. Classic biryani, kebab, and curry. Horrible name, and he's a friend of mine, so I tell him all the time, your name is too long.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's way too long. I would never remember. You lost me after classic.
Yeah, honestly, that's what we call it all the time, classic. It's on the west side. And
Manchester?
Yep.
Where?
Nobody knows about this place. It's right next to Lemon Thai. So it's in that little plaza.
Grand Slam?
Yes, it's right near there. And if you don't know, you don't know. He grew up in Hyderabad, and the best biryani in the world comes from Hyderabad. He trained under all these masters.
Oh my gosh, we're going.
His biryani is to die for.
Yeah, he's made some food that actually touched my soul. And every time I made a comment or he goes, let's go to Mac's, I get giddy because the food really just, it's nothing I've ever experienced before. That's one of the great things about traveling with Keith is you get to experience different flavors. Even though he makes tandoori chicken, we went down to Fort Lauderdale and we went to this place called Indian Bazaar or Indian Harbor. And it was just amazing. So it tests us how can we do better? We push ourselves, but every time we go out and we try something, it's just something for me that I put in my book of my Rolodex of things that have touched me. And Mac does that perfectly.
Okay, so and Mac, you're referring to the classic.
Yeah, so classic. Okay. His name's Maka Khan.
Okay.
We all call him.
I just want to make sure I'm getting that connection correctly. Okay.
Absolutely.
And it's called Classic
Biryani, Kebab, and Curry. Way too
trying to picture it in there, and I can't. My husband and I just went to Grand Slam for the first time. Have you ever been in there?
I haven't.
I've been hearing so many things about it, and I'm like, I didn't even know it was like a restaurant here because it doesn't look like that from the outside. And we went, and it was kind of cool. They have a nice bar in there, and the food was pretty good. It was, it's American food. It's not anything, too great, complex. That's the word Jasmine said. But yeah. So okay, I can't wait to go check.
Yeah, you got to check him out. He's just 10 out of 10 human being and brilliant. You got to get the biryani.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a little on the spicy side, but
we love spicy. Then you're kidding, sweating off your face, isn't it? It's a great feeling. It's amazing. Yes, it really is. So besides Indian food, what's your favorite go-to plate?
So I am the most basic eater in the world. He chuckles. I'm
Basic eater after cooking what you cook?
absolutely. I'm like a soup and sandwich person most of the time because I just love a soup and sandwich. So I spend a lot of time at Steve's place, Angela's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So great meats, great sandwiches, great things that I need for there.
Italian. His Italian's very good. And Steve is...
Absolutely.
Love Steve.
I love Steve so much. So there, I went to Campo recently, had a great meal. I thought that was really good. I haven't been on Elm Street too much lately. Other than that, I would say we had a really good time at the Foundry the other day. I haven't been there in forever.
I haven't been there in a while either.
Yeah.
Okay.
And great food.
How about one of our favorite places is the Crown. Have you tried the Crown?
No, I've heard amazing things.
You have to go to the Crown.
I've heard amazing things about Evolution as well. But I think like a lot of things happen where
You got to go try it. I mean, you have to try it at least once. But yes.
yeah, there's always a lot happening. But yeah, I think a lot of us are ritual eaters, right? Like I'm like, oh, I go to the places I want to go.
It's true. Daryl and I are very ritual. I mean, to like take off and go somewhere. We've been doing that a little bit more lately. We did do Boston last week. We ate through Boston.
Yes.
My God.
I have so many places for you if you ever need Boston recommendations.
Well, definitely. Like Indian, you mean?
Just across the board. Like,
I will.
Like in Somerville, you got to go to Sarma. Like Sarma is the best restaurant in the Northeast, like by like a significant margin. Cassie is just an incredible chef and human being.
SARMA?
Yeah.
In Boston?
Somerville, yeah.
Somerville.
Yep. Hard to get reservations. But please, like it's I like that. It's the Mecca. Like that's the bar for where a restaurant should be. And it's funny, we model a lot of the feel of that restaurant off of Aatma. Like they inspire us so much all the time. She's been nominated for Beard, I think like 6 times. Been in the finals this year. So she's just brilliant. And then breakfast, we can't, obviously, this is not a plug because we're sitting here, but Red Arrow. Like you guys have done such an incredible job for so many years. And it really has nothing to do with the fact that you're looking at me. It's just, you guys have been an institution, and to do as a restaurateur, to look and to see what you've done is always inspiring.
My dad has a lot to do with that. I mean, I was happy as anything with my one little location on Lowell Street. I grew up at Belmont Hall. That was my parents' place. And when they retired after 8 years, he, called one day and he's like, I can't keep driving these golf carts in Florida. How about if we open up another Red Arrow? And I'm like, and that now I'm partners with Dad with the other locations. And yeah, that's how he's 80, he's going to be 85.
God bless.
And, he'll be upstairs right now, probably. I'm sure he walked by, I might have missed him, but he's on his calculator all the time and goes into all the diners and travels around to all of them. As a matter of fact, we had something to do in Nashua yesterday, and we stopped at the diner in Nashua, and came my dad, checking things out.
I get that so much. Like, but that's it. It's so cool because those are the stories that inspire like my generation, because like that's where we want to be one day. I look at people like Chris Fio, and I can't imagine Chris isn't that person, in 30, 40 years, that's going to be Chris,
right.
Hopefully just, with a bunch of restaurants and awards. So thanks for sharing that. It's an awesome story.
Yeah. Well, I think like you said, we both I think our parents instilled work ethic. I mean, sometimes the kids today, they don't, they have no work ethic. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember 12 years old peeling potatoes on Sundays at Belmont Hall. We used to have the potato peeler, it was in like this, the churn thing with the sandpaper on the bottom, and my brother and I were in charge of that. And we'd throw them in. And of course, my grandparents were alive then. And, we would keep them in long so they'd come out like this so we didn't have to eye them. And we would get in trouble when she would see that.
That's amazing. That work ethic it teaches you, like, if you can't learn the rules like a student, you certainly can't break them like an artist.
Totally. And then I left Belmont Hall, went to college just one semester, came back to Belmont Hall. I'm like, you know what? No, I'm getting out of the family business. And that's when I went to Weathervane.
Wow.
And worked with Michael Coulters was the general manager in Bedford. I started as a waitress. And then I remember going back to my dad after a week of being there and saying, oh my gosh, Dad, I'm learning like so much stuff. They do side work. Like I waitress there too, you know, but if it's side work, he's like, well, what's side work? I go, well, these jobs that they have to do at the end of their shift and during the. And then within 2 weeks, Michael pulled me aside and he said, all right, he says, I want to promote you to dining room manager. And I'm like, what's a dining room manager? I was like, really? Like, you're kidding. And I worked my way up to assistant manager of the store. So it was kind of cool. He was my mentor.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was funny. When you mentioned Weatherby, I'm like, no way.
Yeah, we were in the Nashua one, and it's funny because I think that's the first time I got to like do bouillabaisse and like all of these things that existed. And I felt a little bit more like a chef than I did at Red Lobster, clearly.
Yeah, probably, right?
But yeah, it's...
Prepping the calamari was awful, though.
I would always say swordfish was worse for me. Like,
I remember the calamari.
Did you have the ink sack?
Oh,
Back in that day? Yeah, that's what I did when I started out at 12. Yeah.
Oh.
I'm with you. I don't eat calamari to this day.
It's hard to find good calamari. You got to be careful. Like, you know, is it going to be good or is it not? Is it, you know, it's always like depends on where you are. But anyway, well, this has been so fun. Is there anything that I didn't touch upon that you want to mention? Or Chef Jeffrey, anything?
Oh, thank you very much for including me. I appreciate it very much.
Of course.
Pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, same here. And, your book?
It's called Craveable Obsessed, Journals of a Food Addicted Chef. It's on Barnes & Noble and Amazon.
So that one is out now?
Yes.
Okay.
It came out August of last year.
it's so good.
Oh, cool.
Well, you're the book. He's in the forward. I had 4 people write the forward.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And that's one thing that's great about him with his books, and he fails to mention because he's very modest. He actually embraces the community and he brings chefs together to help write books like Chris, Ryan Manning, George, myself were in meat, along with some great people in the meat book. So every book he's put out, and I'm not going to blow the Indian book, but the people he has written had or wrote some stuff in the Indian book are just, the stories are amazing.
Oh,
So I can't wait for that one to come out either.
nice. Very nice. Well, thank you so much. And I'm sure I will be seeing you. I can't wait for the brick and mortar. How can people find you? Let's just
Sure.
roles or where they can find you.
So KeithSarasin.com, Instagram, Keith Sarasin. It's basically just my name in various platforms. It's easier that way. But honestly, like, stay in touch. Everyone, I love talking to people, and if they have any recipe or food questions or anything, it's great.
And get out and go to atmacurryhouse.com, and you can order Sunday through Friday. And then you pick up on Saturday between 4 and 6. When Daryl and I did it, we went to, we used to have the Milford one. And so we went to Jay's Tavern for a drink. I went to Amigos for a drink. And then I'm like, all right, now we'll go pick up our food and go home. It was great. But anyway, well, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.